Welcome to Retrobot, the YouTube channel where we feed a friendly space robot a diet of pure nostalgia. I'm Clay, and this is a short circuits video, shorter viewing formats for your retro viewing needs. Today, we're doing an unboxing and review of Transformers War for Cybertron Earthrise Soundwave. So let's jump right in. So here we have him in his Netflix packaging, and just a disclaimer, I have already had him out of the box and played with him in order to prepare for this video. That's how considerate I am. But I wanted to give you the full experience of seeing the packaging from all sides and seeing what it's like when you open him up. So let's take a look here. Here he is. So unlike the Transformers Seige line, where it seemed like all the Seige figures were released in regular Transformers packaging, and then they did a lot of repaints in the Netflix packaging, usually, to be honest, very few of them were repaints that I thought were all that great, so I kind of went for the regular packaging. I have not seen Soundwave available in any regular packaging, only the Netflix. I think that they realized that double dipping was preventing people from getting both versions, and so they opted to have some just available in one kind of packaging and some in another. You can see here that the Netflix packaging, it's not bad. It's very bold. I like the white. I like the art style. But I have to say that the Earthrise packaging is really nicely done. And so this is, it's okay. It's okay. It's not quite as great. Here you can see the product shots. You can see Soundwave posed, and you can see him in his alt mode. And then, of course, he comes with Ravage and Laserbeak in their Earth modes, which look very, very similar to their Cybertron modes, especially in the case of Ravage, who apparently can't open his mouth in his Cybertron mode, and he can't close his mouth in his Earth mode. It's just a molded mouth. We'll get to that. Here you can see the Netflix version of the Earthrise artwork, which is pretty interesting. I do like what they've done here with the high contrast black and white with red accents. It's actually very, very nicely done. But the original artwork on the War for Cybertron line, as a whole, is just really beautifully done. And so when you take kind of a minimalist approach, then it's really hard for that to be as striking. So we just have sort of a scan-lined version of the Autobot sign and Transformers logo. We have some gobbledygook and a red banner on the bottom. And that is it for the packaging. Now we can open this up, and as I mentioned before, I have had him out of the box. So we're gonna try to open that. There we go. And then we just slide this whole thing out, just like that. And we've got this obligatory piece of nonsense paper, which we don't need. And we've also got the instructions, which, you know, I feel like if you need the instructions to transform Soundwave into a tape deck, some part of your education has been missed. I don't know what part, but yeah, there's steps. This is not as basic as the original Gen 1 version, but of course we're going to ignore these completely. So here we go with this. All right. So looking back over here, let's move the box out of the way and take a look at what we have here. Of course, there is the backdrop, which is just, you know, more of that that sort of pencil sketchy looking Soundwave artwork, and I kind of think that it's very likely that this is a 3D model that's been run through a filter in Photoshop. I think that they have that pencil sketch filter. It still looks nice, and you know, just because somebody is using filters in Photoshop doesn't mean that they're using them badly. Obviously, what they've done here with the Decepticon logo and everything, it's pretty striking and pretty interesting, and makes a good backdrop for the character when he's in the package. But once he's out of the package, that goes away. So there we go, and then we get to the guy. So there he is. There is Soundwave with Laserbeak and Ravage, and I've also got Seige Soundwave here in his unofficial yet pseudo-official tape deck mode, and I also have Laserbeak and Ravage here from the Seige line, just so that we can do a little bit of a comparison. Because if you don't know already, Soundwave is a retool of Seige Soundwave. So they do share a lot of geometry, and certainly Laserbeak and Ravage are also repaints and slight retools of their Seige counterparts. So I'm going to start by pulling Ravage out. So here he is, and you can see that they have put some deco, you know, some paint deco here to make it look like the bottom half of him is an audio cassette and the top half is just black. This bugs me. I'm just gonna say that the paint deco bugs me. It's like they know that he's supposed to look like a cassette, but for some reason they chose to only paint the bottom half, and they put the wheels far lower than they are in an actual cassette. I mean, I know that we don't use cassettes anymore, but I feel like people know what cassettes look like, and even if this was done by Takara, and you know, they probably have pictures of cassettes. In fact, I know that they do, because I got the Spy cassette set, and it has a picture of a cassette in the box. So they know where the holes go. They just, you know, didn't put them there. Nonetheless, they did try to make it look cassette-y. Rhymes with spaghetti? I don't know. And at least on that one side, and as is typical with the Transformers cassettes, which we haven't actually seen them do cassettes for about, like, what, 30 years? 35 years? Something like that? Ooh, feeling old. The back is just robot parts, which is fine. They only really need to deco one side, and honestly, this is more cassette decoration than we have gotten on most of the cassettes for this line. So nonetheless, we have Ravage here, and his transform is a little bit clumsy. This is very, very similar. In fact, it's identical to the transform from the other version. In fact, wait, before I do that, let's just go ahead and compare him to the Seige version. And you can see how with the Seige version, they made no attempts to make it look like a cassette, which, of course, this is supposed to be the Cybertron version, so he wouldn't be a cassette. He would be something else. I think that it listed him as a shield or something like that. It's a box, and you know, that's what we want, because ultimately we want him to fit into Soundwave's chest and to be able to be deployed, and they do have this little peg here which allows him to peg in to 5mm holes. And since this is the exact same mold, except for slight differences, it also has that very same peg. So you can see here, same colors, same geometry, just slightly different paint deco on the back side. They do have some details in here, like the word Japan and the little counter and the 60 minutes. So, you know, they did do some diligence here, but I really wish that they had just continued the cassette motif into the middle so that it wasn't such a stark contrast between cassette deco and the complete absence of cassette deco. So let's go ahead and transform him. So we're going to pull the legs out like this and pull the legs out like that. And then we're going to tip these down and flip the pelvis of his little beast mode here around like this. And then we can also at this point pull out the head. And there you go. And so here's where things get a little bit clumsy. You need to get the legs into this position here, and it's kind of tight. So you have to rotate these around here like that, and then get the legs down. And then now we can flip the shoulders down. And so there he is. And I'm going to go ahead and transform Seige Ravage very quickly, if at all possible. And there we go. And see, this is where things get a little awkward. Just grabbing that. And there we go. And so we have two Ravage Eye, and the real big difference between these is the Seige version has painted red eyes, and you can see the prominently displayed Decepticon logo, and they've used the paint deco in this version to give him the illusion of more cat-like legs. And you see how they've got the silver there, which actually looks pretty nice. And then they've got his little rockets shown on his hips there, and they've done less of a job of getting the back leg to be reflected with that paint deco. But still, it's a nice looking Ravage. It's tiny. It's a very tiny Ravage, much smaller than the Gen 1 version. But overall, not bad. He doesn't have a tail. I guess Ravage is now a Manx. I used to have a Manx, and he was adorable. But this kitty is not nearly as cute as my cat Rory was. Now you look at the Earthrise version. Now the eyes are painted silver, which doesn't stand out nearly as well. And the mouth is molded in an open position instead of in a closed position. And that's the difference in the geometry. You have open mouth and closed mouth, and that is it. That is the only difference. Let's see if I can get these side by side in front of these cameras. So there you go. To be honest, I think that the Seige version looks better. He's got his tape gobbledygook here, and that doesn't really bug me, except for the complete absence of any of that detail here. I don't understand why they chose to do that. It doesn't seem to improve the robot mode, unless maybe they were trying to make this circle sort of look like a hip joint, but they've already got a hip joint there. So, and even from the other side, yeah, I don't know what the reasoning was, but this Ravage is fine. They obviously they are nearly identical. I do think that the Seige version is a little bit nicer, but the Earthrise version is not bad by any means. So let's put those aside, and next we will get Laserbeak out. And Laserbeak is generally considered to be a significant improvement over the old one, and we'll see if that holds true just with this side-by-side comparison. So as you can see here, the paint detail is really striking. The colors that they've put in here with the red detail with orange and then blue and silver, I mean, this is really nicely done. It's intricately done. It doesn't look at all like a cassette. They have done nothing to make this look more cassette-like. They have not put any detail like painted on holes or anything like that. And is that a missed opportunity? Or is he just supposed to look like a circuit board? You know, maybe that's it. Maybe I'm misinterpreting it, that this Laserbeak doesn't turn into a cassette, he turns into a circuit board, because that's certainly what that paint detail looks like. You know, these look like resistors here. A lot of these traces look like electrical traces, a little capacitor there. So yeah, maybe that's it. And he's just not supposed to be a cassette, and I'm okay with that. I can accept change in the world. Now let's take a look at his Cybertron version, and it's not bad, but again, it really doesn't look like any specific thing. There's all these molded in details that are just red. So just comparing the alt mode, certainly the newer Earthrise version is just really a lot nicer looking. I guess I should be holding them the same way, so here we go. So yeah, I have to say the Earthrise version really does look really striking. The Seige version is certainly not bad at all, and if I didn't have this one, I would still be very happy to have this one. So if you transform the Seige version, you will see that this version of Laserbeak has his Cybertronian visor, as seen in the Gen 1 cartoon, in the pilot episode of the Gen 1 cartoon. Although in that form, he didn't have a bird-like body. He actually kind of looked more like a drone. So, you know, it was probably more something like this, which obviously I can do because I'm doing it here. So that's pretty cool. And it's nice to see Laserbeak in his Cybertron incarnation. And that's kind of a missed opportunity where they didn't do that with Ravage. I guess because Ravage we didn't see on Cybertron in the Gen 1 cartoon, so we don't really know what he would have looked like when he was there. A lot of the comic books depict him looking like this. So you know, it begs some questions, not questions that could never be answered, but yeah, he looks like an Earth cat on Cybertron. So for Earthrise, let's transform him, and once again, you've seen this is not a hard transform. You pull the head out, you pull the wings out, you flip the feet down, and you rotate the back end over. And I do really like this transform. It looks very much like his Gen 1 counterpart. He looks great. His colors pop. And here you have a very earth bird looking head sculpt, which again is really nice. The placement of the Decepticon logo is perfect. And so you compare these guys, and this is a case where they are distinctly different enough that I'm glad that I have both. This is something that we've never gotten before, and so I'm really glad that I have it. It's fantastically collectible, and it looks great. And then you look at this one, and this is distinctly different. And even though 95% of their geometry is exactly the same. In fact, 98% of their geometry is exactly the same, yet they feel like very distinctly different toys, and I'm really glad to have both. I think that they did an excellent job with both versions of these, but I have to say that that seeing the paint detail that they did on the wings here really does make this one pop. So that is the cassettes. Let's get to the main event here, and so we'll pull Soundwave out. Of course, originally he was held in with some little plastic tie thingies, which we do not have in place anymore, which is good because they're a pain in the butt. And let's just put him right here, and already you can see that he's got amazing light piping. And I know other reviews of this figure have commented on the light piping, and I have to agree, because look at the way the eyes just glow. So, you know, you can be like, sleep mode activated, wake mode activated, snooze, are you going to be late for work? So there he is. And, you know, I want an alarm clock like that. That needs to be an alarm clock. I could see a display in his chest and the snooze button on the head and the eyes lighting up. That would be great. So, you know, Hasbro, if you're taking notes, then Soundwave alarm clock. Okay, it's printing money. Just go ahead. I'll buy it. I'm a sucker, and so will most of you, because that would be great. Especially if it were like a clock radio, and he was, ooh, if it transformed, you know, like you know, you hit the snooze button and the head pops up or something. I mean, there's options here. I'm telling you, there's options. So, going back to Soundwave, I'm just struggling a little bit to pop his weapons out of their plastic prison. We have the handgun here, which has that little pop-out feature, which is actually pretty nice. And then we have the gun here, which is reminiscent of his original gun. We also have this. And so we have it, he of course can hold it like this, and it sort of looks like a blaster. I have seen documentation saying that you can put this on Earthrise Megatron's back to make him look like he's got the barrel of the gun, just as his Gen 1 counterpart did. But you know, this is not a bad handgun. It's not great. It's not really distinctly sound wavy, but they have given us the shoulder blaster that we are used to seeing, and a pretty nice likeness of the Gen 1 gun. And of course, these weapons are identical to the Seige versions, at least in terms of the geometry. The weapons here are the exact same molds as the weapons that you see here. Now notice that the Seige version has some red paint detail that's actually very, very nice. And I do think that it adds a little bit to the character of those weapons, but at the same time, if they're not going to put it on there, I'm not going to really hold it against them. It's fine, and if I really wanted it to have that detail, I could add it, or I could just, you know, borrow the ones from this toy. So we've got that. Also, this gun, and I've seen people talk a lot of crap about this gun in other videos, reviews. I don't hate this gun. I actually think that it's moderately clever. It's not the greatest gun ever, but here I'll show you what it does. So you open it up like this, and then you take his blaster here, and if you want an extra effect, you push in this end, and so then when you put this on here, it pushes that out. Maybe it pushes it out. It's supposed to push it out. I was able to push it further in, and it was pushing it out, and it was going to be really cool, and now it's stuck. So nonetheless, this does plug into the back like that, and then you take this one, you plug it into this end like that. I've noticed that this thing comes out very, very easily. There are pegs in there that are supposed to hold it, but my version sure doesn't hold it. It just stays very loose in there, and I'm not sure exactly why. There's not enough room for this to really pivot a lot, so I'm just not sure what the purpose of that joint is in the way that it works. I guess I could look in the instructions, but you know, I threw those away. So. Okay, so here's the Seige version, and I'm just going to prove that this does work, or at least it did. This is the Seige version of that gun, and you push it into the back here, and you can just push that all the way down like that, and see, that's actually really cool. I like it better with it a little bit shorter, and then you can plug this one into the back, and so you have this really long, whatever kind of gun. It's big and shooty. So yeah, that's just proof positive that can work. So here we have this, and then you can do this and have him hold this end here and put him into a cool pose. And now I can be like, Operation Blow Your Ass Away. And that is Soundwave. And I think that's pretty cool. Is it what Soundwave is known for? Absolutely not. This is something that is a carryover from the Seige version, and historically, we've never seen Soundwave with a ridiculously long weapon, but I don't hate it. I approve of any time that they give us pieces that allow us to have more creative interpretations of the accessories and the weapons and things that we can do with the alt modes. So I'm not going to hate on this little hinged piece. And as you can see in his Cybertronian Seige version, I use that as kind of an antenna. And my biggest criticism is I wish it had some different jointing to make that work a little bit easier and give you more options in the alt modes. So nonetheless, we have Soundwave here. Soundwave himself, let's take this out, and now he can just throw this. Maybe this is a grenade. You know, maybe he just pulls the handle out and then he throws it. It's sort of like in old cop shows where they run out of bullets and then they throw their gun. Soundwave throws the handle of his gun. So let's prop him up here so that you can see him in all of his glory. And of course, his articulation is fantastic. He has shoulder joints. He can move his arms around. He's got a pivot at the bicep. He's got elbow joints. Due to his transformation, his wrist tips in. He's got a pivoting waist. He's got hips that go out, legs that go forward, pivoting thighs and knee joints. He's got a little bit of a pivot in the ankle, and also, if you were to unlock this, you could even get him to point his toe a little bit if you needed to. So there's a lot of points of articulation here, and I will say that the quality on this toy, the manufacturing is tight. His joints are nice and tight. He holds a pose beautifully. The paint deco is really, really nicely done. I especially like the silver that they used on the buttons here on his midsection. The silver on the sides of the legs is also very, very nice. Yeah, I'm typically not a big fan of this gray plastic that they use for his arms or for Ravage's legs, but it is fine. It's not terrible. It's just a little bit dull in comparison to other things. Also, the yellow is really bold here, and that especially pops when you put him into cassette deck mode. So he's a fantastic figure in terms of just being well articulated, having excellent joints, and of course we've got the opening chest compartment. So let's go ahead and take Laserbeak, and we will put him in his chest where he belongs. So, whoops. So this just flips around like that, and then that folds in there. We fold in the wings, we flip the feet up, and then we can take Laserbeak and just put him right in there like that. And then we do that, and he throws Laserbeak out. I don't know if other people's Soundwaves do this, but he is a flinger of Laserbeak, and Ravage sticks in there a little bit more, but Laserbeak really does just kind of fly out of there. And so I feel like that's sort of an attack in itself, and I want to see exactly how effective of an attack that is. So if only I had an Autobot that I could try it out on. Maybe I can choose a toy completely at random. Oh look, it's Gen 1 Wheelie. So we'll just put Gen 1 Wheelie here, and let's see what happens if Soundwave is standing in front of him and deploys Laserbeak. So, oh gee, poor Wheelie. Wheelie feels almost dead. Got hit by Laserbeak in the head. Yeah, shut up, Wheelie. So there we go. We've got Laserbeak. Now, of course, if this were spring-loaded in some way, where when it popped out of his chest like that, it actually transformed, that would be cool as heck. But I'm not asking for that. And honestly, when I've seen Transformers where they have a lot of spring-loaded transforming gimmicks, it rarely actually works as well as you would hope. So we'll just put him in there. And now it is time to do what we've all been waiting for. We want to turn him into a cassette. Because honestly, we got this one, and the official transform is some kind of a spaceship, and you could also sort of make the light sensor post that he had in the Gen 1 cartoon, at least sort of. But what we all really wanted was a tape deck. I don't know why. We're an obsessed generation, but every version of Soundwave we want to turn into a tape deck, and this one finally does. So let's go ahead and do it. We're going to start by flipping in the hands. We're going to open the little door on the back right here, and we're going to flip the head around, and then we'll close it, and it closes very nicely in there. We take the arms. Now notice the arms still have these little landing skids from the Seige version. They do nothing in either form. They're just there. They're just a carryover. So we can fold these around. Now, one thing that his arms do, I said do, that means poop. And so we can lock them around his back like that. The legs transform very, very similarly to the Seige version because, of course, they share a lot of the same geometry. The feet flip in. We have these pieces, which actually work far better in this version than the Seige counterparts. They're tighter and they lock in nicer. So that is a nice improvement to the design. And then I guess I shouldn't have put the arms back there yet because we have to pivot at the waist. So now after pivoting at the waist, then we lock the arms behind the back, just like that. And now we take the legs, wrap them around the front here, and get them to click into the sides. And you can see that there's rectangular tabs there and slots there, and then there's this little bit here that's going to go in there. And so everything goes in nice and tight. You know, there's a lot of really, really solid things that align and lock in. We've also got these little panels that fold out from this control panel, and then they plug into the fronts here. And now you have the cassette deck mode. And I have to say that the first time that I put this into his cassette deck mode, it just filled me with glee. I was happy. It just makes me smile. It is so solid. It feels great. It is really nice. The alignment is superb, absolutely superb. And so understand that when I talk about how much I love this, and I do, that it is with love that I say, why is it that I can see through here? Look, there's a big hole there. Look, you can see through there too. I mean, just big gaping holes through my cassette deck. I remember cassette decks. I had them. I'm that old, and I can tell you that they didn't have these little holes where I can be like, hello, look, wait here. Okay, can you still see me? Can you still see me? I can see you. I can see you. Look at that. Yeah, there we are. So yeah, and it's like, it wouldn't have taken a major change in the design to have a little piece molded into the leg to just, right about yay, that would just block that hole when you transform him. My guess is that it wasn't obvious. You look at it from the front and it's not super obvious, only when you see light pouring through. And maybe when they're creating the 3D models for these things, that kind of stuff just isn't as obvious. And honestly, when you've got an alt mode that is this solid and works this well, maybe they just didn't care. It's still really, really awesome, but it does have a gaping hole right here that we can see each other through, which is just kind of like, wow. So yeah. Oh, whoops! I just shot Laserbeak across the room, and fortunately, I didn't hit my cat. So there we go. Of course, we do have the the cassette door, which, see, that really shoots out there. I love it. And we could take Ravage here, and we can transform him and rotate the legs here and rotate the legs there. Here a leg, there a leg, everywhere a leg, a leg. Flip up his pelvis. And then we do that, and we actually have to open the hind legs so that they can close around the front legs, because the front legs go in first. And then we have something that sort of looks like an audio cassette. I mean, it's like 75% there. It's got printing things that are very audio cassette-like, even if they're in the wrong place. And then we can put that here. And I love the click. Listen to that. Oh, wait, here, you know. See, he stays in, but wait here. I'm trying to get it to where the camera can see it and the microphone can hear it. Yeah. That's fantastic. And he looks great. And he's just, there's something very, very satisfying. Like, I feel good just sitting here fidgeting. This is like the new fidget spinner, okay? Everybody got rid of their fidget spinners anyway, but now you can get Soundwave, and he's more expensive than fidget spinners, but nonetheless, I feel like you won't regret like having Soundwave as much as you might regret having a drawer full of ridiculous fidget spinners. Now, personally, I never got into those, but I will say that after they became uncool, they are a great source for cheap ball bearings if you're building stuff. So, you know, just so that you know, when you see those things now, yeah, scoop them up. They're pennies on the dollar. So, I think that's it. That is Transformers War for Cybertron Earthrise. This series has a lot of names. Soundwave. I hope that you enjoyed this review and this unboxing. I know that I've been really happy with this toy. The play value is, it's a 10. It's a 10. And yeah, it has a hole there and a hole there. And so the alt mode gets a 1 demerit for having a little hole. I will probably kit bash it to fill the hole. That will probably happen, and if I do, I'll post a video about it, because that's what I do on this channel. So, what is your favorite version of Soundwave? Is it this one? Is it the Gen 1 version? Is it any one of the many versions of Soundwave that they've had over the years? Let us know in the comments and tell us why, because that would be really cool. I want to hear from you. Also, if you like this video, please give it a thumbs up. It really helps us out, as we are small and trying to grow. Also, please, if you like our content, subscribe and hit the notification bell. That way you know when we're doing more of these short circuit videos, or when we're doing our live stream events. Which, speaking of live stream events, we do live streams pretty much every Friday night at 8 o'clock Eastern Standard Time. It's a party. We pick a topic. It doesn't have to be Transformers, although it oftentimes is, because I've been collecting these things for years, and now I get to talk to people about them. But we talk about all sorts of toys, and so we have people in the live chat, and we respond to comments, and there might be adult beverages for people who are old enough to enjoy that sort of thing. It's a party atmosphere with a fantastic community. Please, we would love to have you join in. So, yeah, join us Friday nights, 8 o'clock Eastern Standard Time. So, that is it. Thank you so much for watching. I'm Clay, telling you to keep it Retrobot. Keep it Retrobot, because that's the name of the channel. Retrobot. See, it says it on the robot's mouth, even though our robot doesn't actually have a mouth.